People often say that everyone eventually meets someone they can never forget. For an avoidant, that person usually isn't the one who keeps chasing, begging, or trying to convince them to stay. More often, it's the person who can walk away peacefully, with dignity, self-respect, and a quiet sense of strength. At some point, an avoidant may encounter someone who leaves a deeper impression than anyone else. Not because that person tried harder than everyone before them, but because they didn't create pressure. They didn't constantly demand reassurance or force closeness. They simply showed up with emotional stability. And that is often when the avoidant begins to recognize that this person may have been different all along. The real foundation is emotional safety. It's the subtle feeling that allows even someone who normally keeps their distance to slowly become more open. It isn't about sending more messages, explaining your feelings repeatedly, or proving how deeply you care. What matters most is how their nervous system feels in your presence. Many avoidant people have learned, through their earlier experiences, that intimacy can come with conflict, unpredictability, or emotional overwhelm. Perhaps they grew up around intense emotions, inconsistent affection, or situations where becoming vulnerable didn't feel safe. Over time, their mind can begin treating closeness as something dangerous. So when someone approaches them with overwhelming emotion, constant reassurance seeking, or an urgent need to be validated, they may instinctively create distance. That distance isn't always a sign that they don't care. Sometimes it's their way of protecting themselves from what feels emotionally overwhelming. And ironically, the more desperately you try to demonstrate your love, the more pressure they may experience. Emotional safety doesn't mean hiding your feelings or acting as if nothing hurts you. It means knowing how to carry your emotions without placing the responsibility for them entirely on someone else. Instead of saying, "You made me feel this way, so you need to fix it," you can communicate from a grounded place. "That hurt me, but I know I'll be okay." That small difference can communicate something powerful. It tells their nervous system that connection doesn't automatically mean chaos, obligation, or emotional captivity. You're showing them a different kind of love, a love that doesn't force, rush, or overwhelm. And when you stop making your inner peace dependent on how they respond to you, something inside you changes. You no longer spend every moment wondering whether they'll choose you, notice you, respond to you, or give you the reassurance you're waiting for. You become more grounded, more centered, more secure within yourself. And that is often the kind of energy an avoidant secretly needs, but rarely knows how to ask for. What they may ultimately want isn't endless emotional intensity, it's stability. They want to know they can become closer without losing their independence. They want to feel loved without feeling trapped by that love. This is why the moment you stop chasing and begin grounding yourself can change the entire dynamic. They start sensing that your affection isn't something that will consume them. They can breathe around you. And when someone finally feels like they can breathe in your presence, genuine connection has room to develop. It isn't always dramatic gestures that reach an avoidant heart. Sometimes it's the quiet confidence of someone who doesn't need to control the outcome. Someone who can care deeply while still allowing things to unfold naturally. So if you want an avoidant to truly recognize your value, stop trying so hard to prove it. Become the sense of calm they may never have realized they were searching for. Create an emotional environment where peace carries more weight than pressure. When there is no force behind your love, they may gradually begin lowering the walls they've built around themselves. Not because you chase them into opening up, but because they finally experienced enough safety to choose closeness on their own. Eventually, there comes a moment when you're simply exhausted from chasing.
You've explained yourself countless times. You've offered reassurance. You've given more love, more patience, and more chances. Yet they continue creating distance. It doesn't necessarily mean your feelings meant nothing to them. Sometimes they can feel the emotional pressure underneath all that effort. They can sense how much you need their response. And because emotional need can feel threatening to someone with avoidant patterns, they instinctively step farther away.
The real turning point begins when you stop trying to convince them to understand you and start turning your attention back toward yourself. That is where the entire dynamic can begin to shift. Chasing usually comes from fear. Fear that they'll forget you. Fear that the connection will disappear. Fear that you weren't valuable enough for them to stay. But being centered comes from somewhere completely different. It feels steady, quiet, secure. Instead of trying to obtain love, you begin embodying the kind of love you want to experience. You stop treating their silence like an emergency. You stop reacting impulsively. You learn to remain present without allowing their behavior to determine your emotional state. Your stillness becomes a message of its own. It says, I care about you, but I won't abandon myself just to keep you. An avoidant can often sense this shift even when nothing is verbally explained. They notice when your self-worth is no longer hanging on their attention. They notice when you're no longer trying to pull them closer every time they step back. And when you stop feeding the old chase and withdraw cycle, both people finally have room to breathe. They get space without feeling pursued, and you get space to reconnect with the person you are outside of the relationship. That's where genuine confidence comes from. Not pretending you don't care, but becoming so grounded that you no longer need someone else's attention to feel whole. You can want them without making them responsible for your happiness. You can love them without losing yourself. And that difference matters. Avoidant people often aren't attracted to desperation because desperation can feel like emotional demand. What feels safer is consistency, stability, and the freedom to move closer without being controlled. The shift from chasing to becoming centered doesn't mean turning cold, distant, or indifferent. It means developing self-respect. It means remaining emotionally open while refusing to become emotionally dependent. Because once you stop chasing, the old pattern begins to lose its power. They no longer feel trapped in a cycle where closeness automatically comes with pressure. And from that space, they may begin moving toward you for a completely different reason. Not because they're afraid of losing you, but because they recognize something unusual. They may realize they've encountered someone who doesn't simply love them, but understands how to love without possession. Avoidants are often misunderstood. People assume they are afraid of love itself, but many are more afraid of losing their identity, independence, or sense of control inside a relationship. When closeness becomes associated with being controlled, managed, fixed, or constantly directed, they naturally create distance. That's why the more you try to force the relationship into the shape you want, the more they may pull away. But when love feels spacious, stable, and freely chosen, something different becomes possible. They don't have to run from it. They can finally choose to move closer. That is why one of the most important things you can offer an avoidant is consistency without control. It creates a rare balance. They can feel that you're present and dependable without feeling like their freedom is being taken away. The message is simple. I'm here, but I won't trap you. There is a major difference between being consistent and trying to control someone. Consistency says, you can trust me to be steady. Control says, you need to behave a certain way so I can feel secure. One creates trust, the other creates pressure, and pressure often makes an avoidant retreat. People with avoidant patterns can be extremely sensitive to emotional demands. The moment they feel that your happiness depends on how quickly they respond,
how much attention they give, or how emotionally available they become, they can instinctively create distance. But when you remain composed, predictable, and caring without constantly asking for something in return, the dynamic begins to change. Instead of becoming another source of emotional stress, you become someone they can experience as a safe place.
Consistency doesn't mean giving endlessly or waiting around for someone who isn't meeting you halfway. It means being stable in your communication, honest about what you mean, calm in your delivery, and loyal to your own standards. When your words match your actions, they notice. They may not acknowledge it immediately, but they're paying attention. They are often quietly watching to see whether your behavior remains steady over time. And when you maintain your position without becoming anxious or resentful, trust has an opportunity to develop. Control can appear in much more subtle ways than people realize. It can sound like, "I only want some clarity," or "Why can't you just communicate with me?" While those feelings are understandable, an avoidant may experience them as another demand being placed on them. The answer isn't to become silent, suppress your needs, or pretend that their behavior doesn't affect you.
The healthier approach is calm consistency. Say what you need to say honestly and respectfully, then allow your actions and boundaries to speak for themselves. Avoidant people may strongly value freedom, but freedom without emotional safety can still feel uncertain. What they often need is the experience of being free, while knowing that the connection itself is stable. When you can offer both, you show them that love doesn't require surrendering their independence. They can have their own emotional space while still knowing you're not going to suddenly become unpredictable or controlling. Over time, that reliability can become one of the very things that makes closeness feel less threatening. They don't move closer because you forced them to. They move closer because they begin discovering that connection with you doesn't have to feel dangerous.
Avoidants can also spend a tremendous amount of time internally watching for emotional danger. They're not necessarily looking for physical threats. They're scanning for criticism, confrontation, judgment, rejection, or situations where vulnerability could leave them feeling exposed. So when they sense too much emotional intensity, they may retreat before the situation becomes overwhelming. This is why one of the most powerful changes you can make is learning to stop reacting automatically and start responding consciously. Instead of becoming a magnifying glass that enlarges every problem, become a mirror that reflects calmness, awareness, and emotional stability. You don't need to constantly analyze them, diagnose their behavior, fix their wounds, or demand an explanation for every withdrawal. You can simply observe what is happening and choose your response carefully. Imagine they suddenly become distant. The old reaction might be to panic, send multiple messages, ask what went wrong, or desperately try to restore the connection. But instead, pause. Breathe. Let the emotions move through you without allowing them to control your next decision. That small space between feeling something and reacting to it is where emotional strength develops. Many avoidant people are familiar with extremes. They may have experienced emotional chaos on one side and emotional shutdown on the other. So when someone responds to their distance with grounded awareness instead of panic, it can feel completely different. You become someone whose presence doesn't require constant emotional defense. Being reflective doesn't mean tolerating disrespect or pretending harmful behavior is acceptable. It means choosing clarity over impulse. You might communicate, "I understand that you need some space, and I'll respect that. I also need communication that works for me." That kind of response carries maturity without creating unnecessary pressure. It tells them, "I'm not here to control you. I'm here because I want a genuine connection." Instead of adding to their fear, you're showing them that closeness can exist without emotional force.
Eventually, they may begin to notice something important. Being around you doesn't leave them emotionally exhausted. They don't constantly have to defend themselves, explain every feeling, or worry about hidden expectations.
You become a reflection that allows them to notice their own defenses without feeling attacked for having them. And that creates an opportunity for something many avoidants struggle with: looking inward. When people feel constantly criticized or cornered, they tend to protect themselves rather than examine themselves. But when the environment feels calm, they have more room to become aware of their own patterns. This is the beauty of responding instead of reacting. The relationship moves away from emotional tug-of-war and toward quiet awareness. You stop trying to force a response and begin paying attention to your own tone, timing, boundaries, and honesty. And eventually, something powerful can emerge: peace. That sense of peace can become the bridge between distance and connection. When someone consistently feels emotionally safe around you, they may no longer feel such a strong need to escape, not because you convinced them to stay, but because your presence stopped feeling like something they needed to escape from. Another difficult lesson is understanding that you cannot make an avoidant recognize your value by endlessly proving it. It's easy to overgive, over-explain, become constantly available, and hope that one day they'll finally realize how much you've done for them. But genuine connection isn't built through performance. What matters is the energy behind your actions. They can often sense whether your effort comes from genuine care or from fear that you won't be chosen. That's why self-validation is so powerful. When you stop needing another person to confirm your worth, your entire presence changes. Your value no longer depends on how much attention someone gives you. You don't have to perform for love because you already know who you are. An avoidant can notice that difference. You stop desperately seeking their attention and begin appreciating it when it naturally appears. You stop interpreting every moment of distance as proof that you're not enough. You become emotionally independent without becoming emotionally unavailable. And that can change how they see you. You are no longer reflecting their fears back at them. Instead, you begin reflecting something they may secretly want for themselves: stability, confidence, and inner peace. Self-validation isn't arrogance. It isn't pretending you don't care. It is being able to experience your emotions without allowing someone else's behavior to determine your identity. When they pull away, you don't collapse. You remind yourself, their distance does not define my worth. That simple internal shift creates a kind of emotional safety that pressure never could. One of the things an avoidant may fear most is feeling responsible for another person's happiness. When you remove that burden from the relationship, they have more room to breathe. And interestingly, your independence can make your value clearer to them. When you focus on your own peace, your personal growth, your goals, and the life you're building, they can see that you aren't waiting for them to complete you. Your strength becomes quiet, not performative. This isn't about playing games, pretending to be unavailable, or trying to manipulate them into chasing you. It's about genuinely changing the relationship you have with yourself. When you no longer need their approval to feel complete, you naturally become someone who invites both love and respect. So, if you want an avoidant to recognize what you bring into their life, don't spend all your energy trying to prove it. Let your peace demonstrate it. Let your confidence demonstrate it. Let your self-respect demonstrate it. Because when you learn to validate yourself, you communicate something far deeper than words ever could. Love isn't supposed to repair one person's emptiness by sacrificing the other person's identity. Healthy connection is two people choosing each other while remaining whole within themselves. And that is where boundaries become powerful. Boundaries aren't walls designed to keep someone out. They are bridges created through self-respect. For someone who struggles with closeness, healthy boundaries can demonstrate that intimacy doesn't automatically mean control. Many avoidant patterns develop when a person grows up around emotional extremes: too much emotion, too little emotion, or inconsistent emotional support. They may eventually become protective of their personal space because space feels safer. So when someone enters their world without limits, gives too much too quickly, shares everything immediately, or tries to completely merge their lives together, the avoidant may experience that closeness as a threat to their independence. But when you can care deeply while still maintaining your own identity and boundaries, something changes. They can feel that you aren't trying to consume their world. A boundary simply says, "This is what I can accept, and this is where I need to protect my peace." It doesn't require anger, it doesn't require punishment, and it doesn't require shutting someone out. It means knowing when to move closer and when to step back. It means being able to say, "I care about you, but I also care about what keeps me emotionally healthy." That kind of clarity creates trust because it shows that intimacy doesn't require self-abandonment. And the more you respect your own boundaries, the less you feel compelled to monitor their every move. You stop staring at your phone, waiting for a message. You stop dissecting every silence. You stop stretching yourself beyond your limits just to keep someone close. You return your attention to yourself. That stability can be deeply attractive to someone who is accustomed to emotional unpredictability. You don't have to be perfect. You simply have to be grounded. Over time, your boundaries communicate something without you needing to explain it repeatedly. You are free to be yourself, and so am I. And when an avoidant realizes that love can exist without possession, pressure, or the loss of independence, closeness can finally begin to feel less like a threat and more like a choice. You can let them come closer without losing yourself, and you can give them space without falling apart. That message alone can help an avoidant relax. They begin to understand that love doesn't have to feel like confinement. It can offer both freedom and stability at the same time. So if you genuinely want to connect with an avoidant, stop trying to demonstrate your love by constantly giving more, doing more, or sacrificing yourself. Love with balance. Care about them while continuing to respect yourself. Respect their individuality without abandoning your own needs. When love has healthy boundaries and structure, it can become one of the safest experiences they've ever had, not because it holds them tightly, but because it gives both people room to breathe. And sometimes, silence communicates more than any explanation ever could. For an avoidant, your silence can create space for thoughts that constant conversation never allows. When you stop explaining yourself over and over, stop chasing responses, and stop trying to convince them of your value, the emotional noise begins to disappear. And in that quiet, they may finally notice what isn't there anymore: your constant presence. Avoidant patterns generally don't respond well to emotional pressure. What can affect them more deeply is peace. Your ability to step away from the emotional tug-of-war, remain composed, and stop trying to force an outcome can create a completely different experience. That's when reflection can begin. They may start thinking about what they had, what changed, and what they could potentially lose. The truth is, confrontation and repeated reassurance can sometimes make an avoidant feel even more trapped. But when you create distance without anger, punishment, or an attempt to manipulate them, the effect can be much deeper than another argument. Your silence gives them space to hear their own thoughts. For once, you're not filling every emotional gap for them. You're not explaining what they should feel. You're not trying to make them understand everything immediately. They have to sit with their own emotions. That's when the internal conversation begins. Not necessarily when you say more, but when you stop saying everything. Healthy silence isn't a strategy for controlling someone. It's emotional discipline. It's choosing not to chase an outcome you cannot control. It's trusting yourself enough to step back and allow reality to reveal itself. When you stop pursuing their attention, your focus naturally returns to you. You begin healing the part of yourself that once interpreted every quiet moment as rejection. You learn that silence doesn't always mean abandonment. Sometimes, silence simply creates room to breathe. Your quiet can communicate something powerful. I respect myself enough not to beg for someone's attention. It can also say, I'm not trying to punish you. I'm choosing to protect my peace. Someone who has become accustomed to being pursued may notice that change immediately. They may never openly admit it, but your emotional shift can challenge the pattern they've grown comfortable with. Suddenly, they have to sit with feelings they normally avoid. Curiosity, guilt, return, maybe even admiration. They begin noticing your strength through what you no longer do. You don't send the extra message. You don't keep explaining. You don't keep trying to repair everything by yourself. And that can cause them to reconsider their own behavior. The power of silence comes from the intention behind it. When it comes from confidence, it doesn't feel like rejection. It feels like self-possession. You're not slamming the door shut. You're simply no longer standing outside it, constantly knocking. That creates contrast. They may begin recognizing the difference between the emotional comfort they experienced when you were present and the emptiness they experience when that presence disappears. Sometimes the strongest message isn't spoken at all. And the growth that happens while you're away can become even more meaningful. When you finally step back, not because you're angry, but because you've accepted that you cannot force another person to meet you, you change the entire dynamic.